In the quiet town of Petaluma, California, the night of October 1st, 1993 began like any other. Klaas, a bright 12-year-old girl, was enjoying a sleepover with friends at her home. No one could have imagined the terror that would soon unfold. At around 10:30 p.m., a man broke into Polly's bedroom, wielding a knife. He tied up Polly's two friends, muffled them, and took Polly at knife point, disappearing into the night. A mother's worst nightmare had begun. The kidnapper was Richard Allen Davis, a man with a long history of criminal behavior. Despite his run-ins with the law, he had been released from prison just months before the kidnapping. The town of Petaluma mobilized quickly. The search for Polly grew into a nationwide effort, with volunteers, law enforcement, and the FBI all joining forces to find her. Her face was everywhere, on flyers, in the news, and in the hearts of those who desperate for her safe return. The investigation took many twists and turns, but it would be 2 months before a chilling breakthrough occurred. A woman called police, reporting a strange encounter she had with Richard Davis on the night Polly was taken, near a secluded wooded area. When police went back to investigate, they found something disturbing. Polly's body had been buried shallowly in a remote area. The innocence of Petaluma was shattered. Polly had been murdered just hours after being kidnapped. The nation mourned, vigils were held, tears were shed, and the tragic loss of this young girl left a lasting mark. But her death also sparked something else: reform. Polly's case led to changes in how children kidnappings were handled, including the implementation of the 3 strikes law in California, aimed at keeping repeated offenders like Richard Allen Davis off the streets.
This was sentencing day in one of the most notorious murder cases of our time. A judge in San Jose, California, accepted the recommendation of the jury and condemned Richard Allen Davis to death for the kidnap, rape, and murder of 12-year-old Polly Klaas. The sentence was expected. What happened in the courtroom before it was handed down was not. In this report by John Blackstone, you will see a chilling demonstration of a criminal's ability to continue inflicting pain long after his crime and conviction.
As Richard Allen Davis awaited sentencing today, he listened as Mark Klaas, the father of his victim, addressed the court.
He has made innocent people suffer, and truly the honorable way out would be for him to commit suicide. It's the least he can do to alleviate our pain. But since he does not have the goodness or the courage within him to take even that step, the state is placed in the terrible situation of having to make that decision for him.
The high-profile search for Polly Klaas, kidnapped from her own bedroom 3 years ago, made her face familiar across the country. After she was found murdered, her father rose to prominence as an advocate for tough laws to protect children. But he has always focused on seeing Davis sentenced to death.
He broke the contract. For that, he must die. And Mr. Davis, when you get to where you're going, say hello to Hitler, say hello to Dahmer, and say hello to Bundy. And good riddance, and the sooner you get there, the better we all are.
Davis was also allowed to speak. For the first time, he showed some hint of remorse, apologizing to Polly's mother, Eve Nichols.
To Eve Nichols and her family, for what it's worth, I do offer my sincere apology. To certain members of the Klaas family, I also offer the same.
Then he got in a last word, adding insult to an already unspeakable injury.
I would also like to state for the record that the main reason I know that I did not attempt any lewd act that night was because of a statement the young girl made to me when walking her up the embankment. Just don't do me like my dad. I have to pay my dues, so should you.
Burn in hell, Davis. Yeah, boy.
Moments later, Richard Allen Davis was sentenced to death.
This is always a traumatic and emotional decision for a judge. You've made it very easy today by your conduct.
Davis's unsubstantiated accusations were answered quickly outside the courthouse, first by Polly's grandfather, Joe Klaas.
This man succeeded in what he was trying to do, which was pierce my son through the heart and pierce the rest of the family. It was just plain despicable, and it shows the kind of people child molesters are.
It shows the degree and how far he will go to continue to manipulate people and to continue to try and pour on the suffering and the pain and the agony.
Mark Klaas vowed today that he'd be watching in the execution chamber when Richard Allen Davis is put to death. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Jose.
In 1996, Richard Allen Davis was convicted of Polly's kidnapping and murder. He was sentenced to death. Justice was served, but nothing could bring Polly back. Polly's story, though tragic, left a legacy of protection for future generations of children. She is remembered not just of how her life was stolen, but for how her memory helped safeguard others. The state of California continued to honor her by ensuring that no child suffers as she did.